In 1971, Buick introduced one of the most controversial cars in its history, the Boattails Riviera. This third generation Riviera had a tough act to follow after the high level of success achieved by both the 63 to 65 Riviera and the second generation 66 to 70 Riviera. When design work started on the 71, Buick program planners had originally assumed the car would be produced off of a modified A-body platform similar in size to the Pontiac Grand Prix and Chevy Monte Carlo and a bit smaller than GM's full-size cars. The original scale models for the Riviera, as seen here, had especially dramatic and graceful proportions with beautiful surfacing that was both delicate and dramatic. Unfortunately, the design seen here didn't make it further than the scale models as GM management soon decided the Riviera would be built off of the full-size B-body platform instead of a modified A-body. This meant the car grew larger and wider than the designers originally intended. It also meant the car needed to lose some of the dramatic body side sculpture inherent in the scale models, as it simply would not work with the wide A-pillars and windshield of the B-body, which Buick now had to share. The result was a production Boattails Riviera that remained dramatic and handsome, but which had puffed up a bit like it ate too many Thanksgiving dinners in succession. Perhaps as a result of this, the Boattails Riviera never achieved the sales success that its predecessor did, and never sold over 35,000 units per year during its production run from 1971 through 1973. The previous 66 through 70 second-generation Riviera had routinely sold over 45,000 units per year over its lifetime. Consequently, Buick's general management turned sour on controversial styling for the Riviera and desperately wanted to get rid of the Riviera's atypical rear, hoping to bring more of its clientele back into the fray with a mainstream design. For the 1974 model year, the Buick Riviera would be de-boat-tailed with heavily modified front and rear styling that made the car look much more conventional than the 73 model it replaced. The task of designing the 1974 Buick Riviera fell to then Buick chief designer Wayne Kady and his team. Wayne had recently been transferred from the Cadillac studio to Buick. Let's listen to a clip of Wayne describing how and why he was sent to the Buick studio during this time to remove the infamous Boattails from the Riviera and his thoughts on the revised 1974 to 76 design. Unfortunately, the Riviera sold in even reduced numbers from 1974 to 76 after the Boattails was removed, never topping 21,000 units per year in sales.
It was something that Bill Mitchell was pushing, and the guy that was in charge of that was Jerry Hirschberg, and he was the chief designer for that design. And I think Mitchell had a lot of influence to push that design on Buick, and then Buick didn't really like the concept, and they thought it was maybe too flamboyant, too controversial, and as a result, the sales didn't go off as hoped, and they wanted the design changed. And I had been working on, well, actually, I'd been working in a studio right next to where Jerry designed the Boattails Riviera. And I'd finished the 71 Eldorado, and then we were working on a DeVille replacement, and it was just a concept car. It was designed mostly by my assistant, Don Logerquist. And we had the fiberglass model sitting in the studio, and it was a four-door.
That's this vehicle here, which I can blow up for the viewers, correct?
It's this one right here. That's it. It's a two-tone car. But it was a very nice-looking sedan, or a DeVille. You know, it could have been a DeVille, except it didn't have a fin on it. But
why did Buick want to get rid of it? What was the perception of the Boattails within Buick and with the dealers at the time, would you say?
I think they thought it was just too controversial, and if the general manager of the division didn't like it, and I heard the general manager at one point tell some dealers at a dealer reveal that he didn't like the boat tail and it was forced on him. And he was trying to get rid of it. And I know that there was some conflict between the general manager and Bill Mitchell. So the reason that I was probably sent into Buick was to change the back end of that Riviera. And Mitchell had an idea that I should take the design off of that DeVille sedan, the two-tone DeVille sedan that we had done a fiberglass model of.
Right.
And take that rear end and graft it on the back of the Riviera. So all we had to work with was we were able to do a new deck lid, new quarter panels. We had to save the doors. We got the roof off of the, let me see, we shared the roof with the Eldorado and the Tornado. So we shared that roof. And we had a deck lid, and we had some high-level lights that were incorporated that were supposed to give it some pizzazz. We got some flack on the rear end, and people badmouthed it, and I really wasn't all that proud of the outcome. I think we accomplished what we were told to do, but I don't think it enhanced the look of the car. It just made it more ordinary. And I don't think we sold any more. You know, if you go back and look at the sales, it probably never improved it.
Unfortunately, Wayne was correct that the sales didn't improve with this transition away from the boat tail. But as the 74 to 76 Riviera's life was coming to an end, the task again fell to Wayne to design the successor Riviera. Wayne wanted to bring back some of the romance associated with the original and second generation Riviera designs, and he and his team came up with a full-size clay model that attempted to put some romance back into the overall design. Alas, Wayne's vision would prove too controversial for the Buick sales team yet again, who was still left stinging from the residual impacts of the boat tail. Let's listen in as Wayne tells the story of his proposal for the 1977 design, which would become stillborn soon after it was molded into clay.
I always pictured Buick, you know, as a design it had, especially the Riviera, it had some romance to it. It had some flamboyance to it. And if you make it an ordinary car like I did with that 74 Riviera, then how do you get back some of that romance? And some of that flamboyance? And okay, yeah, this is...
Enter some romance and flamboyance?
Well, I can refer it to that way. Other people may not look at it the same as I do, but...
This was your proposal for what was going to be the 77, 78, correct?
Yes. Yes, and that was the first clay model that we did. It was pretty far along, and then Buick salespeople came in, saw it, and they thought it was too flamboyant. I think maybe the drop belt line and the reverse D line and then the stiff roof profile gave them some pause, and then they went back and talked to George Elgis, the general manager of Buick, and then George gives me a call. He says, "Hey, I hear your car that you're working on is pretty controversial." And I said, "I don't think so, George." He says, "Well, I want to come down and see it. I'm coming down Saturday morning at 10:30. And I told George, I've got a dental appointment and I can't be there till about 11 o'clock. And he said, "Okay, so I'll see you there. I'll be there." Well, anyway, when I pulled in the garage, the guard at the garage told me, "Don't go to the studio, go to Mitchell's office." And I thought, uh-oh, what's going on? So when I go into Mitchell's office, and he's saying that he used some flamboyant language to describe George. And he said, he's in your studio right now, and he wants to see what the Eldorado looks like, and he wants to see what the Tornado look like. And don't show it to him. So I said, "Okay, I won't. You know, it's not my, I can't do that." So I walked back to the studio, and there again, Jack Humbert meets me, and he's telling me that George was in the studio, and he and Bill Mitchell got into a big conflict over the design because Mitchell loved it. and George went along with his salespeople. So when I walk into the studio, George has got he's got a sad look on his face, kind of a sad, angry look, really. And he said, I want to see the Eldorado and I want to see the Tornado. And I said, George, I can't show them to you. I don't run the building. Bill Mitchell does. He says, well, go get him on the phone. So I go to my office, and I'm thinking I just came from his office.
Yeah.
So I'm going into my office, and I'm starting to dial, and all of a sudden the door flies open, and Mitchell comes walking in. And he's got this angry look on his face. And he's looking at George, and George is standing there. They're both looking angry at each other. And George,
Just growling at each other like two pit bulls or something?
And George tells Mitchell, I want to see that Tornado. I want to see that Eldorado. Says, okay, come on, damn it. I'll show you those two cars. So we're walking down the hall. While we're walking down the hall, Mitchell's telling, look at you. You don't even know how to dress yourself, and you want to see the other.
You were saying that to the Buick general manager?
He was.
Oh, this is a Saturday morning thing.
Saturday morning. I'm thinking, oh, God, how do I want to get out of this? So anyway, we're walking down the hall, and there's Elgis, Mitchell, Humbert, and myself. We're walking in, he shows him the Eldorado, and it's nothing. He comes back, shows him the Tornado, and that's a nothing. Just a big couple of bricks. And comes back into the studio, and George is telling him, well, I don't like it. I'm not going to buy it. So anyway, Mitchell's looking at him, and God, I'm looking, his fists are doubled up, and I'm thinking, God, this is going to get into a fisticuffs here, and how would I do it? So, anyway, so George doesn't say anything, and then Mitchell looks at him, he says, nobody elects you, not even Kady. And it turns around and walks out.
All because of this car here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the corner of my eye, and I can see Jack Humbert looking for a place to hide. Not literally, but I mean, he's thinking, oh, this is crazy stuff. So anyway, after Mitchell leaves, El just looks at me, and he's got this mean look on his face. He says, is that true what Bill said about you not liking me? He says, no, George, Bill doesn't speak for me. Anyway, that was the end of that design. And
that was the end of your proposal then.
That was the end of my proposal. Not long after that, I ended up in Cadillac again.
Interestingly, while Wayne's exterior proposal for the 1977 Riviera wasn't adopted, the Buick interior design team's proposal for this dramatic 77 Riviera largely made it through to production. Here is a sketch penned by then Buick interior designer Marv Fisher for the 77 Riviera. Marv would later rise to become the chief designer for Cadillac Interior Studio and was responsible for the 1992 Cadillac Seville and Eldorado interior. He'll soon join us on Rare Classic Cars to discuss some of his work at GM. Turning back to the Riviera interior sketch, note the distinctive DLO or window graphic and backlight which follow Wayne's exterior design. Furthermore, note the door panel and IP design and contrast it here with the production 1977 Riviera. Both are highly similar to what made it through to production. What's perhaps most interesting is that the door panel design proposed in Marv's sketch emulates the upper DLO graphic of Wayne's exterior proposal, with a gracefully dropping arced line between the wood on the top of the door panel and the fabric below it. The theme is then reversed on the rearward side of the casket-handled door pull to create a symmetrical pattern. Strangely, while Wayne's exterior didn't make it into production for 1977, Marv and the Buick design team's interior proposal did, creating an interesting tension between some interior elements which arguably matched Wayne's more dramatic exterior and what ended up being a rather banal and forgettable Riviera for the 1977 to 78 model years on the exterior. Even though Wayne ended up transferring back to Cadillac before the 1979 to 85 Riviera's design began, One can clearly see a distinct relationship between the 79 to 85 Riviera's exterior theme and Wayne's original vision for the 1977 Riviera. The reverse D-line and dropping beltline were removed, and the roof and side profile tightened up a bit, but the overall theme of the car, complete with its formal stiff backlight roof profile and forward-sloping deck lid and taillights, had been established. It was this 1979 to 85 Riviera which would again establish the nameplate as a top seller in Buick showrooms throughout its lifetime. In fact, the Riviera gained in popularity as it aged, with its best sales year being 1985, when it sold almost 65,000 units. Hope you enjoyed this discussion on the 1971 to 85 Buick Riviera design. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the video thumbnails at bottom left and right for some suggestions for you.